and maybe that's not the name that they prefer to go by, but it's the name on their driver's license. So if you're trying to get their wallet back to them, you still want to connect the account to that name. But there's the preferred name option. And if you simply enter a preferred name, you can search by either variant of their names and in the display user search helper and pretty easily find them. However you enter their name, as long as you haven't misspelled it. There is the little checkbox that says use preferred name. My understanding is that that is what triggers the system to put that name on notices. But as I said, I have been attempting to test that to verify for certain, but the notice timing to get it so that I, am triggered in someone's batch of notices has been, I've had bad luck in the libraries that I have checked out my mythical items from. So I'm still working on that and working to confirm it.
Well, thank you, Anna. Other libraries, would you like to chime in here? Who has been asked this by patrons? Who perhaps are you considering any kind of new policy or procedure, even if patrons haven't instigated it? Have other staff members instigated it?
We do have some input in the chat that people have been using that preferred name option, and it does appear to, in fact, generate the preferred name on their notices. Thank you. That's good. It's always nice to know that things, work the way I think they work.
Well, thank you. Anna, for those folks who, this is the first time they're hearing about the preferred name option, is there a cheat sheet out there for how staff might do that?
I believe it is included in the regular patron registration stuff, but if not, I can certainly make one. This might be the sort of thing that is worth having a separate cheat sheet for, so I could certainly whip one up very quickly.
Okay.
About that, but I will put that on my to-do list.
But do type into the chat. Feel free to unmute yourself if you would like to add anything. Again, if your patrons have brought this up to you, if you have received this request at your library.
I don't think we need an actual policy, though. I mean, if preferred name is a setting and workflows, then people can use it as they wish. I mean, I just, my children's names, like my daughter's name is Lucille. She prefers Lucy. I just changed her name to Lucy in the system because I could never remember to type in Lucille. She doesn't have ID yet, though, so. But I don't think we need a policy. That's just my 2 cents.
That's a valid point. While we here at my library have not had a patron approach us to make any changes because of a transition, that's something to also consider. If at what point does one require legal identification for perhaps a name that might not exist yet? That's something to think about.
And I guess that's the advantage of the preferred name, is if it's not, because I mean, just my 2 cents is like, you want to address people the way they want to be addressed, and you want to honor whatever their name is for whatever reason they choose to use it. But there are times that I mean, my lost wallet example of stuff, or, you may be in a position where you don't know that there's a name variant that you may, for some reason, need to know that that's the same account being associated both ways. But, and that could come up for, a variety of different reasons, a patron who's passed away and someone's coming in with their obituary that's addressing them by their first name, but their whole life they went by their middle name, whatever it is, so to have both variants you know, until there's only, you know, until people reach that stage where there's only one version of the name, you know, to have both somewhere kind of makes sense. But the preferred name seems to be a pretty successful way of saying, no, this is what you call them. You know,
Yeah.
like I don't care what their driver's license says, this is what you call them, you know. So I mean, the issue of having a different one on a library card, that's probably a local thing. And I think most libraries aren't printing a name on a library card in any case, so much as having a patron sign it. So
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know, basically. But if there is something that someone is interested in seeing a policy, it would probably simply say something like, we encourage the use of the preferred name fields if a patron wishes to go by a non-legal or not yet legal version of their name, you know.
That's good. And of course, I appreciate the person who submitted this this question and this topic, because it forces us to think about something that we haven't thought about before. So that's really good.
I do have a question in the chat that was sent to me directly that says that at some point, so Kendall may be able to speak to this because it would have been before I was here, that they were asked to remove preferred names from the system. Do you know, was there any history of that causing a problem, Kendall? I've been encouraging it for as long as I've been here, so I don't know whether it was maybe just a feature that it wasn't being used consistently.
Yeah,
or...
I'm not sure. I don't even remember that happening. That doesn't mean
Okay.
it didn't. I mean, I've been here a long time.
Or it could have been a bug that has been fixed by upgrades or
It
something.
could have been a bug. The other thing that it could have also been was if it was something to do with the migration, if we're going back that far and maybe that data wasn't migrating over
Okay, something that maybe wasn't
correctly,
migrating
it could have
correctly.
been that as well.
Okay.
But yeah, I think it's fine if people use them now. There's
Okay.
aren't, to the best of anyone's knowledge, there are no issues with that preferred name field now.
Yay.
And for those of us who are watching the recording, I am so sorry. I forgot to put the slide in at the front of the PowerPoint that told me to start the recording, and therefore I did not start the recording until someone reminded me in chat. Thank you, Laura. So what you missed prior to this particular topic was the review and adoption of the agenda, the review and approval of the minutes of the previous meeting, the Board of Directors report, most of which we will cover later on, or at least touch on later on. And you missed a poll in which the beverage of choice for today's users group meeting turned out to be water, 51% winning. So there you go. That's what you missed. You are all caught up.
So did we come down on the side of probably don't need an official policy, at least at this point?
That seemed to be what I saw.
Okay,
Yeah.
but possibly an updated cheat sheet specifically about this so that people are aware of it as a feature. Thank you.
To make it easier to know what we were going to talk about later in the written package, the things in black are the ones we will not be talking about later, unless you would like to talk about them now. Oh, and there you go. I even missed the top one because that's later as well. So the strat plan update will be later in the agenda too. So basically new parameters, they're on the sheet. If you want to use them, send an email to help@rsanfp.org and tell us what you want. And we will make sure you have all the correct circ and hold rules for them. RSA has put 6 or 7 videos out on YouTube, little short, like 5-minute training videos. You can see a list of those training videos, and the links to them are on the in the written package. And then, so does anybody have any questions on either of those things? All right, moving on. Also in the written package, I have included stats, basically because we talked about it at the last users group, and I said at the next users group I would have actual stat data I could show you. This is just a portion of what you're going to see on there, but basically the way this works is these are the major areas of tickets. They are prepended with a letter of the alphabet or an exclamation point or a little asterisk. Exclamation points and asterisks, these ones up at the top, are explosive emergency type questions and or rails or delivery questions. And then anything that starts with an A as an admin, a C as cataloging, and M as member services, that all makes sense. RSA CAT starts with a P. And that's because the product we use for RSA CAT is enterprise/portfolio. And well, we couldn't use R because that's for reports. So P it is, and then S for systems. So as you're looking through this list on the big list of things that big kind of major categories of case types, that's what those pre-pending digits are. The way the data works out here, number of cases opened, number of cases closed, and the delta between the number of cases opened and the number of cases closed. So if it's a positive number, that means more cases were opened than we closed in that particular category. If it's a negative number, like here in February, we closed one more case than was opened, and that's because we had cases from the previous month we could close. Overall, when you look over here at the total delta can never be negative because there are only 1,000 cases open and we can only close 1,000 cases. We can't close cases that don't exist. So best case scenario here over on the total would be 0. But basically total number open, total number closed, and then the delta number is how many are still open essentially when you look at this last column. So just to give you an idea of how many cases get opened a month, January, we didn't start getting cases until January 12th, and we had almost 800 cases. We had 1,000 cases in February, 1,200 cases in March, another 1,200 cases in April. So we're busy beavers here. We have lots of formal cases open. That doesn't include things like phone calls and all the follow-up and things on cases. But I know people had been wondering, and one of the things we told you was that with the new help desk, we could give you better stats just to kind of keep you informed on our workload. So that's what I have done here. Any thoughts or questions on that? Wonderful.
Okay. So this topic was brought forth, I think right after the last users group meeting. So, we do listen to you. If you want to discuss something at a users group meeting, if we miss you the first time, we will remember you for the next meeting. So what is the best way to provide patrons with their PIN for online services? And we really do want to hear from you. This commenter mentioned that they are frequently questioned by patrons via the phone, their library's email, or of course through their library Facebook page. And sometimes staff are unable to respond to patron requests promptly. As we all remember, when patrons want something, especially like a PIN, they want it now. They don't want it a week from now. They want their PIN now. So how about you unmute yourself or put into chat, what are the best ways you at your library have found to provide patrons with their PIN for, of course, for their online services?
I can be helpful.
Wonderful, Kendall. How about you be helpful?
So the easiest way for a patron to get their PIN is the Forgot My PIN link in RSA CAT. That assumes the patron has a working email address entered in their account. And it is one of the great reasons why everybody should have an email in their account. Then if we pull up the cheat sheet here, that's 4.10, 4.9, 4.10, here we go. There is a cheat sheet that was included in the written documents this time, and it was a cheat sheet we put out a while ago about when we turned on patron pin masking in workflows and some of the effects of that. So if we skip down here to page 2, resetting a patron's pin. So if you're dealing with a patron via email and you reset their pin, we have some recommendations for that. You know, if the patron said, I don't know what my pin is, you can't look it up. It needs to be reset, right? So the patron can either do it themselves via that forgot my pin link, or they can call you and tell you, this is what I'd like my pin to be, and you just type it into workflows. Or you can reset it to a known value. Alpha Park is using Change Me. We tell people use the 8-digit form of their birthday. And then you tell the patron your temporary PIN is this, please log in and then change your PIN in RSA CAT. And they can do that. Once they've logged in into RSA CAT, the patron can go to personal information, type in the current PIN, be it Change Me, their birthday, whatever it is you told them, put a new PIN in there and confirm it. Or if they don't know what their PIN is and they have an email address, they can just, well, even if they don't have an email address, they still see the forgot my PIN link. The fall down is if they don't have an email address in the system, then it doesn't send them an email. But the forgot my PIN thing is there, and then they just put in their card. They get a little thing that says, hey, check your email. And then there's a link in the email, and the email takes them to this page, and they type in their card number and their new PIN, and they've reset it themselves without dealing with library staff.
That's excellent.
And we can provide, we could give you a list of patrons who don't have emails if you wanted to put notes on their accounts or something like that, to ask the next time they're in. We could do that. We would be, due to PII changes, we would be asking, you know, if you're someone at your library has not signed a PII sheet at that point, we would, you know, want to ask you one, because we're going to send you a big list of patron information in the mail. Or we could just do it as simply as sending you a list of user IDs that don't have email addresses associated with them, and you could just cut and paste and pull them up in the system and put a note on it. So if you wanted to look in, or we could just give you a count, you know, you have 1,000 patrons and only 600 of them have an email address, and you could say, okay, for the next 2 months, every time somebody walks up to the desk, we're going to ask them for their email address and check it, something like that. So there are ways to get at the information that you need, but there are, like I said, that we attached the cheat sheet and it had several ways to go about answering that question.
And Kendall, there's a question in the chat. If you could read that about email.
Does forget my PIN kick back any message to the patron if the patron doesn't have an email address in their account? No. That would be way too easy, but no.
So I do hope that the cheat sheet from Kendall and these, even though it looked like a lot of steps, it's a process that a lot of people are used to for recovering, you know, passwords from various websites or some such. A lot of us are used to that by now. Please do let us know if you are still struggling with the pins in any way with your patrons. But basically, I like that cheat sheet, and I think that shows very well what the patrons can do to reset it themselves, so that if this is 6 o'clock on a Saturday night, it's something a patron can do with that, because it's possible that they're not going to get any message back from their library until 9 o'clock on a Monday morning. So, okay, I'd say that's a good discussion topic.
But one quick note on discussion topics, you don't have to wait until we have a meeting to submit those. If you go to the RSA staff support site, there is suggested discussion topic for users group. There's a link, and if you click on that link, it will open up a very nice form that basically gives you can ask for an agenda topic or a discussion topic or a question or a poll topic, any of those things. And that's just got some boxes you fill out, and I get that email. And as soon as I get those emails, whether it's the day before or 2 months before, I put those things right into the agenda, my draft agenda for the next meeting. So, if you wake up tomorrow morning with a burning question and you're like, well, I could wait until the next users group to hear the answer, or you've got a good question for an interactive poll, use the form, fill it out, and I will use that to build the agenda for next time. And I love it when you do that because it's just that much less work for me.
Excellent. Thanks for that reminder, Kendall. So, okay, on to some relatively big news.
So, some of you may have heard and or seen that Rails delivery and RSA office space, we are effectively getting evicted on the 30th of June. And that is because I3, who we share this building with, is growing in leaps and bounds. They are adding over 100 new staff in the state of Illinois this year alone, 20 to 30 of which will be here in East Peoria, and they don't have room for them. So they were investigating moving part of their operations, and when they talked to the landlord said, well, do you need more space? And they said, yes. And the landlord went, well, are you willing to sign a long-term lease? And they said, yes. And Rails is currently on a month-to-month lease. And if you're a landlord and you've got a fish who's going to pay for 5 to 7 years versus a fish who's only going to pay for a month, you go with the long-term lease. So our lease officially ends on the 30th of June. We're not sure where we're going yet. We're not sure when that'll happen. We've got to find a spot for delivery. We've got to find a spot for RSA staff. And so I don't know if any of you have been reading the paper lately, but real estate is tight in the Peoria area, and facilities that can host delivery and RSA staff are few and far between. The best lead we have so far is the building that I3 was looking at moving part of its operations into, which is, according to, if you can see on the map here, this is us. We have this dark part of the roof. This is the RSA section of the building. That is the delivery hub right there. This is the building that is the top contender so far for Rails. We just had yet another phone call about it this morning. They're, of course, like any other building, when you start talking to an owner about issues and leasing, there's always a catch here or there. So Rails is working through that, as well as looking at other properties in the area. Whether or not we will end up in this building, which would be convenient because we're all used to coming up here, and instead of turning this way off of 74, we would turn that way off of 74. Maybe that's where we'll end up. Maybe it's not. We don't know at this point, but the clock is ticking on this. There's only so much time to get moved. And so that's what we're doing. If things come to a screeching halt here in RSA because we're busy trying to clean out offices and work from home or do whatever, that's why. So life could get real interesting real quick for us. Well, it's going to get interesting because we are moving somewhere. We just don't know where yet. That has not been decided. So when we know where we're moving, we will let you guys know. Questions, let's see. Will RSA and delivery need to locate together? No, RSA and delivery do not need to be located together. Although if RSA and delivery are located together, there's only one tax bill kind of thing. You're only paying one landlord type of thing. But that does mean we need more space. And a combined space is a little more difficult. Next question is, do you have to stay in the Peoria area? No, not really. I don't think Rails would want to move us too far because they would have to hire a whole new staff, right? So if they move the, say to Galesburg, how many people that live in the Morton, Washington area are going to want to drive to Galesburg every day? Same thing with Bloomington. Although with the real estate crunch the way it is right now, they are expanding their circle of the buildings that they're looking at. So we'll see. They're currently looking in the greater Peoria area. So that's basically everything from Chillicothe in the north down to South Pekin in the southern part, and then West Peoria, all that kind of space. And they'll look until we find something, or we can work a deal out. Does the property across the interstate include space for both? Yes. The property across the interstate has excellent delivery facilities. You can kind of tell on this picture here, but it's even got a covered loading dock. So if you can get 2 box trucks in there, even if it's raining and they're covered. It's got a big door you can drive trucks in. So delivery space wise, it's great. It's about maybe half the space, maybe not even half the space that we have here in this office as far as administratively goes, which would mean if that was the space that we went to, any type of meeting over about 10 people we would have to be asking area libraries for a conference room loan, which we have talked about in the past. Worst comes to worst, and RSA is all working from home. All the area libraries were very happy to loan out their conference rooms. And for our bigger events, we had been doing 2 of those events a year on the road, 2 users groups on the road anyway. I think, once we're all somewhat back to normal, we'll probably still be having more online events than in person anyway. So lack of conference room space is not a killer at this point in time, I don't think. So basically, I don't have much to tell you because even as of about, time was my meeting this morning, 10 o'clock, at 11 when that meeting was done, we still have no firm plans at this point. So that's where we are. We have a decent option, but they've got to figure out the costs and all of that stuff. So, and keep looking, of course. Any other questions about this? The most important thing I can tell you, the most important things from Rails point of view, and from my point of view, honestly too, is that delivery keeps operating. No matter what day it is that the changeover from this building to the new building occurs, Rails' plan at this point in time is to not interrupt operations of delivery. They would like to do the move over the weekend so that all the trucks will come back on Friday night. That gives them Saturday and most of Sunday to get everything moved and organized so that they can pull everything out of those vans, resort it, and load up vans for Monday morning routes. So Rails would like to be able to make this move without affecting delivery. That is their plan. How does a Pinecrest construction impact that? So Pinecrest, the overpass on Pinecrest, right here, they are replacing that bridge right there. They are right now, they are closing a lane. Well, actually they're closing both lanes at night because they're putting the big metal spans across 74 right now. So they are closing 74 in both directions under the bridge and just routing all the traffic over these lanes here. So it doesn't really affect us, other than I think from like 10 o'clock at night to maybe 6 in the morning. The overpass may be closed temporarily as they have a crane out on it or something. So it's not a big effect, and that'll be done pretty soon. They'll have all those metal spans out there, and then it'll just be back to one, you know, one half of the bridge with 2 lanes of traffic. So actually all this Pinecrest construction has not been nearly as annoying as we thought it would be. Thank goodness.
Okay, so thanks for that update, Kendall. And the next discussion question, who has any tips, or if you're willing to share any secrets for recruiting board members? Even if you don't have any tips, how about this? To get us all chatting, how about either unmute or put into the chat, what did you do to get your most recent board members? Whoever is most recent on your board, what'd you do to get them? We do mean recruiting the board members. We do realize that some of us have a fair amount of community members who run and then are elected, but in the instance where we have to actually recruit them, anyone want to mention anything? I appreciate the honesty from Courtney and Megan. I really do, because that's life.
We had to post it on our digital sign outside, like, please inquire within, we would love to have you. So we're still down 1. So we're gonna swear in 2 new members this upcoming meeting, but we still are looking for 1 more. Yeah.
Thank you, Melissa. Thank you. I admit that in my library, we did something similar. We do not have an awesome digital sign like many of you do, but we put together a nice looking flyer and we put it on our front doors. And so as soon as you walk in, you're passing that flyer. And at least for us, we've had 3, maybe 4 people inquire. I don't know if that'll actually turn into, they'll accept it or they can meet all the meetings or anything like that. But let's see what other people have mentioned. Stephanie makes a really good point, and having board members reach out to possible members. I know that's easy for us to say, but thank you for that reminder, Stephanie, that as library directors or library administration, it honestly shouldn't be 100% on us. So thank you, Stephanie. And Jenny makes a really good point, keeping note of active and interested patrons. That's a really good point, Jenny, to keep actually keep a bit of a list, because you never know when you're going to have some situation where you might have like two board resignations within 4 months, and you've got to quickly go back to a list of some kind. So that's really good. Vanessa claims that she, seduces via my amazing book group. Very nice. I'm glad to hear that you've got an amazing book group. Oh, and Barbara, I'm so glad to hear that your community member was thrilled to be asked. Those are the best kind of people who really, really want to be asked and want to be useful. Oh, and Jenny, yep, a link on your website. Always a good idea, getting people from a variety of different areas. Oh, and Amy, thank you for the reminder, talking about the need for various board members at the meetings, chamber meetings, roundtable meetings, yeah. And Vanessa, very good point. Again, just courting or discussing with the heavy library users. That's very good. Mary, thank you for sharing that you made some personal phone calls. And Melody, yep, echoing what I said before, having the existing board members recruit. That's a wonderful thing. And if folks haven't started that, that's a great thing to have your board members do. Oh, and Joel, thank you. You just ask your friends. That's a great attitude to have, because you've got plenty of friends that would help you out. So, yep, it sounds like Melody and Anita, yep, you keep lists, great. Oh, and Amy makes a really good point, telling board members that they're not allowed to quit unless they find a replacement. That's really good, Amy. On this topic, does anyone have any additional questions? Anything else on this topic of recruiting board members? Okay, I think that that was a really good discussion topic. Thank you very much. And now I'll turn it over, I think, to Anna.
All right. Yeah. So, yeah, standards and practices, reminding you about things you already know. Thank you for that subheading. Delivery labeling is just, we occasionally get questions from libraries and reports from delivery about, errors and such. One of the biggest culprits is the libraries, that have a name that does not match their workflows, 10-digit code. So, Edwards River Public Library District versus that used to be Mercer Carr, whatever. Things like that, Griggsville versus North Pike, those sorts of things. And I think one of the ones we got recently was things where there are both a school district and a public library in the same community, and just, please, in those situations, make sure that you indicate which one is which, or also be aware that the public library in a certain district, the town name is not always the public library name. So if you were to label, what is Cuba, the public library in Cuba is actually a different name, which is now currently escaping my mind, but, or, soon to be basic, I guess, soon to be online member, Ransom Public Library, the Abingdon John Mosser, that's a good example. Thank you, Jamie. Yeah, exactly. Ransom Library in Altona. So if you label it Altona Public Library, it might not make it to Ransom Memorial. So just those things to be aware of. There will probably be a little mini lecture in the next newsletter, but feel free to pay attention to this, because I will probably continue to say this roughly once a quarter, just because it's one of those perennial reminder things. Another reminder just about Gmail accounts. Your Gmail account, I mean, you may have other Gmail accounts, but your RSA Gmail account is technically our email account that we provide to you for your convenience, so that we know we have a place to send you notices. Please bear in mind that that because of that, these accounts we need to maintain our access to. So if for some reason you need to change a password or something, please alert RSA staff so we can update our spreadsheets. Also, because Gmail is Gmail, it will occasionally prompt you for certain verification things. If you get this prompt and aren't sure what to use, please let us know. The verification email should be set to be the help desk email. The verification phone number should be the RSA after hours phone number. And apparently we have heard reports from several libraries that they are starting to also request birth dates, which throws a little bit of a wrench in our plans. We should maybe actually, Kendall, make a cheat sheet of what your Gmail recovery info should be. I will say, instead of saying use something like April 1st, 1980, let's say use April 1st, 1980, because I think we need to make it one thing. And, you know, that's something I think we can internally add to our spreadsheet to track that. But basically, you know, if we're helping you troubleshoot, you know, see why you didn't get a report, or, you know, where an email might have gone, we may occasionally need to log into your Gmail account. You know, we're not going to like log in and spy and send things on your behalf or anything, but, you know, we do sometimes get questions about, you know, end of month reports or things like that. And we occasionally need to be able to get in there. Or if you get locked out, we need to be able to get in there at least to help you, you know, reset your password or whatever it is. And here, Megan, let me give you a link to the membership list. Oops, Patty beat me to it. She's too fast on the draw. I should have expected that. All right. I cover everything, I think, on that slide.
I think so. Yep. Oh, hold on. See, now I was trying to write on my slide and now it's all messed up.
Oh, and this one is Patty, I believe.
Okay, I guess I could come on screen now. Hi. Okay, so two things I have. The first one is Share Illinois. So Share Illinois is a consortium of libraries in Illinois that can log into their own special RSA CAT page, which I'm going to try. Can I share my screen? Okay, I'm going to share my screen.
I think you should be able to. But...
Okay, and what that looks like is, if I can find it, I'm going to share and I'm going to go to this. Can you see that screen?
Yep.
This is what they get. They have their own special Share RSA CAT, and this is where they can place those. So they have a library card account number that starts with a 2 and a PIN. So this is, and they can share it from Prairie Cat or Swan. There's other consortia they can share from. So what happens when you get those? So you're going to get those. You're going to get those in there. That's not what we wanted to look at. Okay, so when you're discharging something, you could get a pop-up slip that says routing information, route transit to Share Illinois, user ID, and the name is the library name. What's really important here is that you're not actually sending it anywhere called Share Illinois. You're actually sending it to this library name, the account number. You can also get it on your pick list, like on your on-shelf items. Oh, I'm gonna have to switch. Let me stop share and new share. So you can get it on your pick list and it's going to show up just like your user ID shows up here, but with a 2 number, okay? Or you will get it on your pick list that looks like, if I can find it, that looks like, not that one. I have to share my next screen here. There we go. And new share. Okay, that looks like this. So you'll get it on your pick list and it's going to have a user ID. So that user ID is really important because that's what you're going to use to check out the item. Since these are libraries outside of RSA, they can't use workflows to discharge the item and accept it in from transit. So just please let everybody know that you're going to check it out to that number. Don't trap the hold. The other thing is, if I can hold up the Rails list, see that there it says Share Illinois backwards, because I didn't write it. Don't do that. Please don't send it to Share Illinois. Write down the actual library name, please. Because when Rails sees something that says Share Illinois, you know where they send it? They send it to us, East Peoria, and then we have to just write up the list. So, and how you can get that route number is if you, I'm going to share my screen one more time here. Look on L2. I'm not sure what you see now, but on L2, you can look them up. And there is the route number XRF-11, for instance.
I will add one more thing this is probably the delivery label you will want to use unless it is XEP route. Right?
You know, I talked to Robert about that and he
Oh.
kind of was like, he kind of said, yeah, you could use the Rails label if
Okay.
it's got one of these. So,
Okay.
yeah. So,
Oh, cool. That's cool.
right. So, I mean, sometimes they will have the ILDS thing. But Robert said they would deliver it if you use the XRF11 and the Rails label.
Sweet. That's good to know. That makes it easier.
Yeah. So, any questions on that, on Share Illinois?
Jenny did, or someone asked if it was a new thing. I would say it's actually kind of an old thing that is likely on its way. Well, Share Illinois is maybe on its way out, as are union listers, which are handled similarly. But there may well be other things that will involve a similar process because they're, you know, so be aware of this as a process for sending things outside of RSA, I would say. It's kind of similar to checking something out to a library's D1500, you know, for an ILL. Think of it kind of similarly to that.
Yeah, and Share ILL will be phased out when I forget exactly what we agreed on, but it's basically maybe one or two more libraries from different consortia join Find More Illinois, the statewide opt-in overlay project for sharing materials between libraries. Once that has the bulk of the materials from most of the consortia in it, Share Illinois will be discontinued, and we'll just expect all the libraries to use that, either to request items or at least as the shared union catalog to send a request via email or something like that. In your package today, there is a Share Illinois holds sheet that links to both of the cheat sheets, as well as has some information. And Patty, go ahead.
Okay. So I've got one more thing that I wanted to talk about, and that is why your item didn't fill a hold. And we've gotten a lot of questions like, I have the item on my shelf, why didn't my item fill the hold? And so there's a whole thing in the packet about scenarios we've run into. And I can say that we have not run into many scenarios where the wrong item filled the hold based on how workflows works. So even if it's not your item on the shelf, there's a reason for it. Since we've increased the number of pick lists to 5 a.m., 10 a.m., 12, 2, and 4 p.m., we have not had we haven't had any issues, people saying my hold didn't fill it. And so I've listed out on this the scenarios where your item didn't fill it. One of the biggest thing I'm going to say, I'm going to take over and share my screen one more time, is when you, and just you can see my stuff there, when you place a hold, I'm going to display my holds. Okay, oh well, I thought I placed a hold. Place hold. Where are you? Place hold. Display user holds. Okay, so when you place a hold here, there's an item ID. Do you still see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, there's an item ID there. When you first place a hold, that is a placeholder for a title that is on that title record. That is not necessarily the item that will fill that hold. So don't get alarmed, surprised, disappointed that is not the item that's going to fill that hold. It's just a placeholder until the item is discharged and set in motion to fill that hold. That's just a placeholder. So that's the first misconception. After that, it's usually just a matter of timing. Once an item is discharged anywhere and it finds there's a hold for it, Workflows is going to want to transit that. It will set that item in transit to fill that hold, even when it's on your shelf. If it's sitting on your shelf, Workflows doesn't pull it until you it could appear on your pick list, but until you trap it, it's still sitting on your on your shelf. And if another item is discharged, then even if it's sitting there waiting to be trapped, it pulls that other item. Also, if you're the next time the pick list runs and your library is closed in workflows, even if it's sitting on the shelf, it sends a pick list to the library that's actually open. So for all the libraries that are open on Sunday, for instance, somebody puts it on hold on Saturday, it will appear on a pick list for a library that's open on Sunday. So does that make sense? And do you have questions? I see some things in the chat. Okay, nothing. Okay.
I will add just a small addendum to this. Since we added the extra pick lists throughout the day, I will just reiterate that these extra pick lists are for kind of the intent of these is for libraries who are doing curbside. So the intent of these extra pick lists is for you to be pulling things for local pickup, because this could, as opposed to, please do not feel pressured to pull things to send out in delivery, when the 4 p.m. pick list runs, as far as pulling things for delivery, pick the time of the day that you can do your pick list and pull everything. Pull stuff for delivery, I would say kind of once a day. Throughout the day, continue to keep up on stuff for your local pickup. Just because if you are pulling stuff throughout the day, in theory, the items should still be appearing on, kind of preferentially on the owning library's pick list. On the pickup library's pick list. But you don't want to be kind of overfilling holds, I guess, just because you happen to be picking more throughout the day than other libraries. You could end up kind of putting a larger burden on your own collection that is really necessary, I guess, is sort of the way I'm thinking of it. I don't know if that makes sense. We're still seeing how those extra pick lists kind of affect things, but the intent of those is really kind of local pickup, kind of pull for everyone once a day, pull for yourself the rest of the day, if you are pulling additional pick lists at all. And if you are not, that is fine. We ask once a day.
And that the document 4.3 that's in the written package there, it does have some various examples showing reasons why an item filled a hold that you didn't expect. It could have been a different volume. The hold could have been placed and some other library discharged an item that could fill the hold prior to your pick list running. There are a number of reasons why that happens. All right. I'll talk about this one real quick. So for a while now, RSA has been running office hours. The cataloging office hours seem to get much better attendance than anybody else's office hours. So we're going to keep doing the cataloging office hours. As things have slowed down a little bit and member services is trying to get back into the library visits, even if it's on Zoom type of mentality, we are working on a form that will allow you to choose your own library visits, kind of like a choose your own adventure, right? We'll do it via Zoom. You can pick a time slot from a group of available times. And assuming I can build the form correctly, nothing will get double billed or double booked, because we'll give you a list of, hey, this is when we can do it, and you could choose a time from that. And then you can either say, hey, I just want a general office visit to talk, or you might have a specific topic you want to talk about, something like that. So the idea here is to give you guys the chance to say, you know what, I could use 30 minutes with member services to talk through an issue we're having, or to get a little bit of a refresher on something that we haven't really used, but we're starting to use now. Those types of things. Or, hey, I've got a new supervisor, and, it'd be nice if they got to meet some people from RSA and, learn some RSA stuff. So we will put out an email to announce this soon. And when I say soon, I mean after the form is created. And that form will get linked on the front page of the support site along with our other forms. So that is something that is incoming. I believe you have an office hours scheduled for May already. And that'll probably be the last one for member services anyway. All right. So something people have asked for a while is there a way to do widgets that we can put on my library's local website and or my Facebook page, and or I've got a book club with a partner in the community, and could I have a list of titles by the same author, and then we could put that widget on that person, on that partner's book club webpage, something like that. So yes, we can do that. They have made it, it's not 100% easy, but it's 90% less hard than it used to be now. And this is basically using the Blue Cloud visibility data that we are taking our MARC records and converting them to BibFrame, and then putting those out on the internet so that Google and everybody else can see them. These widgets are actually built upon that linked data. This is an example of the widget. You can see there's rotator buttons on either end of it here. It's got a list of titles. You can also, at the top of the widget, you could say what the widget was, right? So this could be a New York Times bestseller list. This could be a widget that shows all of the, I don't know, Tom Clancy novels. It's limited to, or you can limit it to, the materials in your library. And if a patron sees this and clicks on it, clicking on the cover of the widget will open the page up in your RSA CAP profile. So all this stuff links back into your library's catalog. Basically, if you want to know about this kind of thing, send an email to the help desk, and one of Anna's folks will fumble through it with you early on. If you are not the first, but maybe the 10th person to ask to do this, we'll be fumbling around much less at that point, because we have just learned about how to do this now about a month ago as well. Problem with the widgets. Yours are Beth, are those the widgets on your RSA CAP page that are broken? Those are different widgets. Joel with the zinger. So anyway, these are not the same widgets that are on the front page of your RSA CAT profile. Okay, Beth, I'll have to talk to you offline about that because I don't remember doing that. So I'll have to look into that. But these are probably not these. Is there a recommended number of titles to include or a limit? So the way these work is there's a big list of topics and or authors, and there are widget lists that other libraries have built that you can tap into as well. And the widget looks at the things that are on the widget list and then compares that to the titles in your library and only shows the titles in your library on the widget. And if these get popular, we can spend a little bit of money and tie them to Novelist Plus and all of those librarian created Novelist Plus terms. If you've ever looked at the Novelist Plus product, they have just a bazillion of hand curated terms that they apply to books as people, read through books and then use the novelist terms. We can do that if this proves to be a popular program. We can sign up for that. And that opens up literally, I don't know, 50,000 additional lists for some pretty esoteric things, some not so esoteric, but they can be focused a lot more that way. Just depends on if these are popular or not. I know there is a Caudill list out there. I'm not sure if it's a novelist one or if it's just a regular one. I think the Caudill list is one that actually exists already without us needing to sign up for the big list of novelist ones. So if nothing else, it's worth your time to take a look at it. Like I said, it's good for book clubs, author lists, you know, those types of things. And these are not to put on your RSA Cat page. These are to put on your library website or someplace like that. And basically you set up the widget and then it just gives you a very small little bit of HTML code that you paste into your website. So it's not hard to do. But we wanted to get it out there and let you guys start using it. Anna. You are muted. You are still muted, Anna.
I think the battery in my mouse is dying because it'll occasionally just kind of not respond. Okay, so we have set up profiles for cards for kids, cards for vets. These are available. We have not gone ahead and added them to everyone's menu, everyone's drop-down menu, because they are tied to the different find block limits. So if you want to use them, please send a ticket to the RSA help desk and we will add those to your drop-down menu, basically is that. And then we will probably also ask you some questions about circ rules, just to confirm that you want to use your same, like, you know, default juvenile and adult circ rules for them.
Yeah, and we asked that question because by default, the cards for vets ones will probably work correctly as an adult card, but the cards for kids user profile, which is actually C4 kids -5-10-15-20, that is not going to work for a juvenile, for your juvenile rules. It's going to grab your everybody rule. So especially if you use cards for kids, we need to make sure that we have modified your circ rules to match them to your juvenile rules. And we would, of course, double check with the adult ones as well for the cards for vets.
I want to just add, I added this for a library the other day, just so you know, the C4 Kids 5, and the C4 Vets 5, that is the default. So if you're using Juve or YA or adult, the 5, just so you all know, that is the default right now, is the $5 threshold. So just so you know, that came up the other day with me. So.
And these are for the 2 programs that just were passed into law not too long ago. Implementation is up to the person, or is up to the library. James, you'll need to speak up if you talk again. Basically what James was saying was the $5 is the default card, and it's what most of you are using for your juvenile and adult cards. All right, no other questions. I will pull this up for you, Anna.
Thank you. Okay, so at the last users group meeting, there was interest in having the circulation policy subcommittee draft and attempted a policy about patron PII on receipts, basically, was where it started. And then we kind of did include a little bit about other print, we called it printed documents including patron PII, because it could also include, you know, say you're printing off the pick list, things like that. Mostly we just kind of said, you know, try not to print patron PII when possible, especially on receipts. The one receipt type that we kind of did include a little bit of wiggle room on was on the available hold slip, the one that prints that says this hold is available for so-and-so to pick up. because especially libraries that are, keeping holds behind their desks and such, they have to have some way to say who the hold is for. So kind of where we landed as a committee was that if we said you cannot print that information on the receipts for your available holds that people are coming to pick up, then that information will end up scrawled on a Post-it note in any case, because you probably do need some fashion to document who you're calling and what and what their phone number is and all of that. So it kind of seemed like that was maybe the one that we kind of had to allow you to continue to print in some form or fashion. We also kind of did a little bit of surveying about sort of how libraries were doing this. Some libraries are printing those slips and then not keeping them with the book, and then are just taking those slips over to the phone and making their phone calls. So that one was kind of the one that it seemed like more of an operational burden to just say, you cannot print this. So we said, if you are printing anything that involves patron PII, whether it be, a hold slip or a, you're printing off your pick list, which includes some PII, or you're printing off your on-shelf items list, essentially we tried to write a policy that said print as little patron PII as you are able to while still doing whatever your operations are. And if you must print patron PII, shred it, do not let it leave the building tucked in a book, dispose properly of it. So this is the draft policy. This has not been to the CERT committee for recommendation or whatever we call kind of that stage of it. So that will still need to happen. We are looking at a CERT committee meeting sometime later this month. But before that, we thought, since we have the draft ready, we would go ahead and share it at users group and see if there was any feedback on it, since the germ of this policy kind of came from users group to start with. So any feedback you would like to share about this, about where we're going, that we may wish to take into account as we evaluate it as the circulation committee, and then hopefully we'll take that into account and stuff and have something the circulation committee can agree on, and then bring it back to the next users group for official voting / adoption, etc. So that's where we are. Any discussion?
Thank you to you and the circulation committee and the subcommittee for putting this together. As Kendall has discussed in the past, and I'm sure we will discuss in the future, patron PII is something that we need to pay more attention to, because I think all of us can admit that we haven't paid as much attention to it in the past as maybe we should have.
I did find an of that is supposed to be an or. That's always fun. All right. I will take this lack of discussion to mean that it is perfect.
That's how I would read it.
Well, we may chat more at the circulation committee, but if you do have anything you would like to add that occurs to you after this meeting, feel free to reach out to me, send help desk and attention Anna or something. Oop, oh, yay, thank you, Sharon.
All right. So that concludes Anna's section. So we thought we would do a poll here. In the spirit of reading colors your world, what's your favorite color? And you have many options. Let me pull up the poll. Poll number 2. You can choose from red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple, pink, or clear. And my question was, is clear really a color? And including hosts, we currently have 61 people online, which is pretty good. That's, I think the 55 that shows on my attendee slide is 55 people who are not hosts. So that's a pretty good count here. Ooh, this is a pretty close one. We got 44 of 54 people have voted so far. I'll give you all another 10 seconds. All right. So let's see, the winner of the poll was tied actually at green and blue. It's like purple came in third, and clear is no one's favorite color. Very nice. All right.
Okay, next topic for discussion. Are some of your patrons pressuring you to open up or change some of your procedures or policies before you and your staff are ready to do so? Please do feel free to unmute or put in the chat if you have some patrons, I see, pressuring you, asking that you change around some of the things that you've been doing for months and months. Are your staff getting nervous? You don't have to list names. And again, if anyone wants to share experiences that, anonymously, just send Kendall or me a message and we will share your comments anonymously. I know for a fact that some of you have been dealing with this because some of you have talked to me individually. So please, discussion time, people. Don't make me call on you individually, because I will.
I think for us, we've really tried to get out in front of it and set some dates and let our internal organizations know, our friends group, our volunteers, our board members, things like that, and kind of go with that. And we've been really fortunate. Our community has been super supportive. So.
Thank you, Melissa, for sharing. Appreciate it. I know that here at my library, the Dunlap Public Library, we haven't had actually too much pressure from our patrons. And we just this week, we extended our hours to close at 8 p.m. each weekday. We were closing at 6 p.m. most of the weekdays. And so far our patrons don't seem to have noticed, but just I'll give them time. So thank you, Randall, for sharing. You did what Melissa did, messaging on the front end, and you only had a little pushback. So glad to hear that, Randall. So, okay, I do have a comment here from a public library that they have had some staff that were hesitant to end the returned item quarantine, even though there is little evidence that COVID can be transmitted via surfaces. So yes, as we all know, a number of weeks ago, Rails ended the required quarantine, and that was the required quarantine to go into delivery. I do know that a good handful of libraries are still practicing some form of quarantine for items returned. And that's something that each library should consider individually. There are still advantages to quarantine items, even if it is for 24 hours. So, okay, yeah, thank you. Another comment that I received, yes, we have had patrons who believe this whole thing is a hoax. Oh, I'd like to really, really understand the mindset of people who believe this whole thing is a hoax, and that we as a library are part of the big lie to wear masks and ask patrons to wear masks, and that this library has had several patrons who want them to be open, like nothing has ever happened. And then, of course, at the same library, they've got patrons who prefer the curbside service and not coming in the building to avoid possible exposure. So as I am sure we can all relate, we have patrons, all kinds of patrons who want everything and who believe everything. And that's called the public. And for us in the public library setting, we definitely have a lot of experience handling the public. So yes, and thank you, Randall. You mentioned ramping down. Randall, did you mean the quarantine? Ramping down the quarantine can help for staff? Wanted to make sure. Okay, yes. Quarantine. That's a good point. Even if it's not totally necessary, it could help staff, their peace of mind, their procedures. And another outdated safety measures. Yeah, well, as long as they're safety measures. And then a comment from Jenny. Yep, anticipating mixed responses from patrons. And thank you for bringing this up, Jenny. Patrons regarding masks and outdoor gatherings. That is something that has been of discussion. I know definitely in the Rails directors listserv and other places about wearing masks, even for outdoor events. So many of us are going to have some type of outdoor event of any size during the summer months. And that's great if your library is planning to do that, if you're planning to have that type of event for your patrons. And all I can say is that from what I have read, the majority of public libraries are still going to require a mask, even if it is outside. And once again, do what's right for your community. If you want to take some type of poll, it's probably going to come out the majority of public libraries are still going to require a mask, even if it's outside, even if everyone is distanced. So there you go. And so Vanessa, you have a really good point related to this topic. How is everyone preparing for this bridge for phase that is coming out of the governor's office and other state officials? I do welcome you to unmute and share your thoughts. I have not yet done enough homework to see what this bridge phase consists of, but I am the firm believer of I'm going to do what's right for my library and my community. So I'll take that under advisement. Would anyone else like to share what your thoughts or plans are for this bridge phase? Thank you, Randall, for sharing. No significant changes for Peoria Public Library. Good to know. Well, okay. Thank you so much for those of you who shared, and even those of you who have shared anonymously. I do appreciate that. I'm sure so many people are going to continue to have this question as things constantly change. And Michelle wants to share that in her library, you're only changing your number of people allowed inside from 50% to 60%. And so that actually equates into only 2 extra people. Well, good that you're allowing that, and good that you've taken the time to run those numbers because you want to do the right thing and be safe. So Kendall, I think we can move on to agenda item number 7.
All right. As you all know, we have an election every year in May in RSA. This year we have 3 full online at-large board seats and 1 basic online at-large board seat available on our board of directors. And the users group vice chair position is open. We had a volunteer this morning after I put out the list, and that is Melissa Sierra from Alpha Park has volunteered to run in the vice chair position. So I will give everybody until about Thursday. If you are on the fence and not sure if you wanted to run, it's really not that hard. It's pretty simple. I will show you the list of current folks. So right now there was one candidate for the vice chair on the list. There are now two since we've added Melissa here along with Randall. Of the 3 open positions for the at-large full online library, we have 4 volunteers, and we have 1 volunteer for the at-large basic online library. So if anybody wants to volunteer for any 3 of these positions, just send me an email and a very short bio of your library and yourself, so that people can read a paragraph or 2 about you on the ballot. Let me go back to the slide. The election should start Friday. That's assuming I can get the election form up on Friday, but the election should run Friday to Friday. 1 vote for library library director, or if the library director wants to designate someone to vote for them, that's how it'll work. 1 vote per, and it's 1 vote, not per library, it's 1 vote per RSA member. So if you happen to have a branch or 2, you still only get 1 vote. All right, that brings us right up to break time. Woohoo! So everybody take 5. It is 2:36 right now, so let's all come back at 2:42. All right, I officially have 2:42 on my clock, so we will get going again here. I did start the recording again, and just to be nice to people's eyeballs, I will flip myself back over so I am right side up.
Okay, so I really do want some discussion on that. Though I'll need Anna's input and other staff members' input as well. So the question that we received was, how should we handle lost or damaged bills for system holds on accounts that need to be deleted from workflows? Is there a particular time frame we need to keep records of, for example, deceased patrons on workflows when there are lost or damaged bills for system holds, reciprocal borrowing materials on those accounts? Or do we just follow the usual retention schedule for expired library cards? And I'm sure it will help us all to be reminded of the retention schedule.
We tried to think ahead.
Thank you so much, Kendall.
This is one of those things that I don't necessarily know the exact, answer to the, do you have to do something different for patrons who are deceased portion of it. I would say those of you who have been in touch with like your kind of records retention officers and such more recently, has anyone asked this specific question or no?
Well, it was submitted. This question was submitted, so at least one library out there is perhaps they were not familiar with the retention schedule, or perhaps they were they wanted an exception to be made for, the example was deceased patrons. I think that's a
Right.
decent example, but
well, and I know I've spoken to at least one library that had kind of asked the question about, when we send reciprocal deletion forms, that is sort of an exception to kind of your normal retention schedule, because normally you would keep that on file, but they considered their person that they'd spoken to said you can consider that sort of an order or request to remove a patron, which kind of can exempt you from, removing your records a little bit earlier, whichever library that was. I don't know if someone from there is, here and can quote me on that. It the can we treat deceased patrons, you know, I'm kind of almost wondering if it would fall under the same heading, but I am not a lawyer or a records retention specialist, but I would be happy to try to investigate further if that is, if there is no one in the group that can shed any light on it based on discussions they've had with their own, you know, in terms of their own records, if there is not conclusive a consensus here, then can see who I can reach out to. That's one of those things where I think some of those rules may be different from city versus district versus, you know.
That's a good point.
So
You're absolutely right. A city might have, a city library might have additional rules regarding retention or rules regarding mandatory sending patrons to collection agencies or some such that actually supersede library rules. And if that's the case, then, you know, I'd say at the very least, just inform RSA when things like that happen, so that, I don't know, if RSA knows that you're not following their rules or something like, but you have a good reason for not following their rules. I appreciate being reminded of this retention schedule, which I believe I looked at when I was hired about 2.5 years ago, and not since. And so this is really helpful. In general terms, what do libraries, what kind of success have libraries found with trying to obtain these payments for lost or damaged items that are years old? And I'm sincerely asking if someone has found some success or anything like that. And these aren't just overdues, because we've all discussed, you know, overdues and fines and fees and such, but these lost or damaged items, what have we found that's been successful?
And we did just have in the chat, you know, which is a good point, that you should probably block or bar the card if you do hear that a page, regardless of what you do with the records. You should probably do something with the card and add a note about the patron being deceased, even if you do feel like it's something you need to keep around. Corey mentioned in the chat that they have had surviving relatives try to use cards belonging to deceased patrons and things like that. So I think I would say probably that you should either, you know, make the card expired, bar the card, add a note, you know. I would say you should probably take some action on the card just so that it can no longer be used, you know, because that person is definitely no longer the one using it, unless there is like a Ghostbusters scenario going on or something. Yeah, here, I'll find the link for that and share. One sec.
I've got it, Anna.
Okay, thank you. And I would say, I mean, this is my personal soapbox. There's some chat on these things. I mean, I would say be realistic about the odds of these items or payment ever coming back, and whether you really, in this situation, is the time you want to really vigorously pursue that payment. I, you know, would just say from a kind of public relations and community relations standpoint, I don't know that it's the best decision for libraries to go vigorously pursuing items that have been lost on a deceased patron's account.
Very good point.
That's a little bit of a soapbox thing there, though. But
thank you, Anna. Thank you for that reminder.
I'd like to say that I did know there was a retention schedule, and I have looked at it before, but thank you, Kendall, for putting the link in. When I have a issue with it, it's not like it's not anything bad, but if I know that somebody is still living in where they should have a library card through me and they haven't moved and they just decided not to return a whole bunch of items that are now considered lost, I don't want to get rid of their card. I want to hold it out there so that when they in 10 years come in and say, oh, I need a library card, and act like they never had one and they didn't lose a whole bunch of things. I want people, if I'm not there anymore, because if I'm there, I'm going to remember that that's had to happen. But if I'm not there, I want the next person to know. So I don't know. That's just the way I look at it. There are some people who I leave their cards on and don't follow that retention schedule because I know they're still there and they just decided not to return things. And I'm afraid they're going to come back later. I don't know if other people have an issue with that or not, but we do in Elmwood.
Thanks for sharing that, Michelle. The odds are good that some other community has had similar situations because people are people from community to community. And so thank you. Any last questions or concerns or anything on this topic here?
I will say there's been a lot of good chat about this. You know, like, does it make a difference how we were informed that the patron was deceased? Do we consider, you know, someone bringing in an obituary or a funeral program more official than someone just telling you, or, you know, or just does it matter whether they've turned in the card, etc. So,
well, thank you. Okay, so I'll turn it back over to the RSA staff for the next topic.
All right. This is the bib framing section. This is the catalog reminders and updates. Erica is under the weather today, so I'm going to do my best Erica impression, and in a very un-Erica-like manner, I'm going to wing it. So here we go. The first thing there is in the written package, there's just a quick update about quarantine ending and how that will affect items coming into RSA via delivery. And the basic gist of that is that items will come into RSA and we are not going to sit on them for any amount of time before they are sorted and handed out to go to a cataloger to be worked on. The second thing that she had in her list, I don't know if this has gone out on the listserv yet or not, but we occasionally get items sent to us here in East Peoria that just appear as if by magic, right? They don't have a hold slip on them. And I will admit that sometimes during testing, we place holds on items and then we get a whole bunch of items and we're like, oh, I forgot to take the hold off of those items. Not that. These are items that actually appear in East Peoria and we don't know why they are here. If that happens, we will look in the help desk and we'll see if there was a form submitted for the holds that said, as one of the options on the form, you can say, I'm going to send my item to East Peoria. If there's not one of those and there's not some kind of hold slip or routing instructions on the item, we're going to turn it around and send it back to you. And we're going to include one of these two oops letters, we're calling them. They will be on green paper so that you can see them. And it's just basically saying, hey, we got this item. We don't know why, but we don't want to keep it because we don't know why we have it. And we're going to turn it around and send it back to whomever sent it to us. All right, go back to the slideshow. At RSA Day, during the cataloging section, they played some cataloging bingo as part of the cataloging session. There were 3 winners, Kate Will, Carissa Faber, and Abby Miles. So congratulations. I probably slaughtered all 3 of your names, but I'm sorry about that. Congratulations to all 3 of you for winning. I will hold off on the cataloging restructure update because I don't have all the latest details on that. But basically what we're looking at is things like there are 195 libraries and 4 catalogers, and that math does not work out long term. I know we are working to restart doing the connection training this summer, we're hoping. Probably turning it into a Zoom course, much like we turned the longer basic cataloging class into a Zoom class, and some other internal changes as well to try and rework the way we've been doing things. We've been doing things basically the same way for 5.5 years now. And as volume has ramped up with more people taking advantage of it, we need to streamline our processes somewhat. So that's what that item is about. And Erica can talk more to it next time. That is the end of the cataloging update. It's much shorter when I do it. So we have another poll, another little bit of foreshadowing from the previous poll with the color orange. Now we have a question about oranges. So which came first, orange the fruit or orange the color? Well, we seem to be coming up with a clear answer. Give it a couple more seconds. We still have some people that have not voted. All right, voting seems to have slowed to a crawl. So I will end voting now and I will show you the results. And as you can see, the answer for those selecting the answer is the fruit, not the color, by 64%. Now let's see what the actual answer is. The actual answer, as provided to me and with a very, very quick Bing search, is that orange the fruit was first. And that probably came from the China, India, Myanmar triangle area where it was growing a long time ago. It got to England somehow or another, and eventually those things became orange. So there you go. The fruit came first. We still don't know about the chicken or the egg, but we do know that the orange came first.
Okay, so who has a shout out to other libraries or any library staff member for help, suggestions, encouragement, just any warm fuzzies that we want to share? Feel free to unmute yourself or put something in the chat. And thank you, Corey, to answering the question that we didn't even ask. The egg came first. Thank you very much. You're absolutely right. The egg came first. The debate has been solved. So who's got any shout outs to any other libraries? I'll start. Shout out to Mary at the Chillicothe Public Library. She talked me through quite some quite frustrating situation that I had with an online timesheet. I was trying to do my timesheets for all my staff online, and it really wasn't working. And I talked to Mary about it, and she agreed. Yep, that way really doesn't work, Laura. So thank you for talking me through with that. And let's see, from Corey, we've got a shout out to Heidi at Alpha Park and Jennifer at Peoria, because they're both great to work with. Thank you for doing that, for sharing that, Corey. Who else has got something? Oh, let's see here. Kayla shares that Courtney at Avon is her new favorite. Oh, Courtney, you're someone's favorite. After helping me get a desperate patron a library card, and Courtney was so cool about it. I have no doubt that she was, as she is such a fan of Pete the Cool Cat. And as we all know, Pete the cat is super cool about everything. So. Okay, well, I know it's getting a bit late in the afternoon, but I am certain that we have all had some help from our fellow librarians. So as you think about it, as you remember some help or a suggestion or an encouragement, just put it in the chat and we'll share it, because we like to give shout outs to the people who deserve it. So thanks for sharing, folks.
All right, let's talk about systems and reports here. I want to give everybody a heads up that we are end of lifing Web Reporter and Director Station in July or August. We'll probably turn off Director Station in July and Web Reporter in August. Director Station has 2 current users, one of whom is retiring. Web Reporter, we don't know if anyone is actually still logging into Web Reporter or not. We do know that there are lots and lots of emails going out of Web Reporter. Now, the fun part is that some of those email subscriptions have been set up for about 12 years and go out to people who I know have been retired for a long, long time. What I don't know is if those emails are being forwarded to someone else. So we're not just gonna go through and turn the machines off without giving everybody a chance to say, oh no, I'm getting a report, because we do know there are still some reports out there in Web Reporter that are going. The problem with Web Reporter and Director Station is that neither one of those have been updated for 12 years now. They were last updated, let's see, it was Symfony 3.2, and we are on Symfony 7.1. So there have been lots and lots and lots of features added to Symfony, and every time a feature gets added, it's probably a pretty good guess or bet that at least one thing in Web Reporter breaks every time they do that. A lot of times it's not something that's super important, but billing data is pretty much broken in Web Reporter, and circulation data is getting a little shaky now too. So we are going to be turning these things off. They are well past their prime. Doug points out that yes, most libraries had their Web Reporter logins removed. I was going to say last year, but I think last year was COVID time. So it was probably actually about 2 years ago. Oh, 2019. There you go. Some of the larger libraries still have logins. We will be sending emails out with instructions on what to look for to see if you're getting emails from Web Reporter. And if you are, we're going to probably ask you to forward one of them to us so that we, forward them to us so that we can hunt you down and then make sure that we can recreate that report for you somewhere else. Or if you don't need the report at all, that's fine too. We can just stop it. Because again, some of these subscriptions have been running for 12 years and Lord knows if anybody actually is looking at them. It may be just something that comes in and goes right into your spam for all we know. Oh, well, there you go. I didn't even look at my slides, so we'll just keep going. Something else talk about. We got some reports recently of people getting into workflows, typically in the finished reports folder, but also sometimes when you were trying to load bibload reports and you would get a response truncated error pop up and then you just continue on with life. And that is because the finished reports folder is got too much data in it to send it all to you in one big chunk. We run lots and lots of reports, and when you add up all of those lots and lots of reports, it just the name of the report alone creates too much data. So we had looked at trying to individually schedule report removal. Right now, what we do is every 35, well, on the 35th day, when a report reaches 35 days old, try this again. When a report reaches 35 days old, it gets automatically deleted. What we wanted to do was to delete some reports earlier than that, things that don't matter, that you don't need to go back and look at, or things that are just system reports. But there was no way to do this until luckily the day after we decided this had gotten to be a really big problem. And all of a sudden there was a new report out there on Circe Dynix land, which is getting loaded on our system soon, that will allow us to say, hey, all those info desk reports that run on Sundays, and there are probably 600 of them that run every Sunday. Once those things hit 7 days old, let's just delete them. That's not something you as a library person would ever look at. Pick lists will probably keep longer, right? But notice reports will probably keep longer, but a lot of the system reports we don't need to keep nearly that long. So we will set those up to delete automatically. Those of you who do look at things in the finished reports folder, there is no reason for you to delete any report in the finished reports folder. I realize that some of you, like me, are completionists and you like when your inbox is empty or when your finished reports folder is empty, but there's really no reason for you to do that. On the flip side, if you call us and you need to troubleshoot something that ran as a report, if you have deleted your reports, we can't troubleshoot it. Because we really kind of need to see the report outcome or the report output sometimes to do the troubleshooting. So please don't worry about deleting reports. We will do that on the system end. So bottom line here is that if you have seen the truncation error, probably around the first of the month when we have 2 sets of end of month reports in there is the most logical time for those to show up. Hopefully by June, those should be gone and you should never see it again. So Doug and I have been working on user permissions and PII, and we asked one small little question to Circe Dynix about making sure that everybody could see the right folders for their PII or not PII reports. And then the world blew up. And so we have learned many things over the past, how long's it been, Doug? 2 months-ish?
Yeah, 2 months or so at least.
But Kendall, it did look like you put the world back together because I haven't noticed a blow up. I mean, did you put it back together?
Well, that's the thing. It didn't affect everybody. So I didn't want to communicate what was going on to everybody and freak everybody out when we didn't know, we weren't aware of how big the issue was. And I still, in the end, don't know how far it really went. Some people had 0 interruption in their proper access, and other people, it's been looks like beginning of March is the first ticket I have where someone's saying, hey, I can't get my stuff. Things should be working now.
Yeah. So essentially, the long story short, RSA was the first Symphony customer to use Blue Cloud Analytics. It was not a completed product. There was only a couple of areas worth of data, but we were helping Circe Dynix build this thing. And so when you are in products early, you sometimes get access to things that they decide are a bad idea, or that they did not plan on, or that over time, and MicroStrategy puts out a major update on like a quarterly basis. Over time, things change. And so what had happened was that RSA was set up with user accounts in 2016 that no longer exist. And because whenever we added new users, we just always said, hey, can you clone this user? And then the person that you clone, call them this username. And so they never really looked at our users because we were just cloning new users. And then we went and asked them to change what folders those users had permissions to see. And someone who had not been working with RSA for the last 6, 7 years with this product, actually dug into our users a little bit and went, hey, these users are not within our licensing term. And so it turned out that RSA had, I don't know, 280-ish BCA accounts, none of which were within Cersei Dynex's licensing with MicroStrategy, which had not been a problem because no one had bothered to check. But if MicroStrategy ever did check, it would have been a huge issue. So the licensing terms basically changed over time, and we just did not know. So as of Friday, about midday on Friday, all accounts for RSA BCA users have been updated to the correct licensing level. And basically what that means is they took out some of the more advanced toys that were in some people's accounts. For other people, basic online users, you actually have more things that you can do now than you could do before. Not greatly, but a couple new things. And the things that they took away, there might be 3 people who even know they exist, let alone use them. So hopefully that's not going to be too much of a problem for anyone. Now, the good news is that all of the PII view issues for people have been resolved as well as we know. If you have signed a PII form and you cannot see the advanced reports and legacy reports views right now, please let us know by opening a ticket. Fair warning that the advanced and legacy folders will be appearing for everyone, PII or not, soon-ish in the next month or so, I would say. But those folders will not contain PII information. We're going to actually move all of the reports that have personally identifiable information into their own folders. And then we're just going to split off the views for those folders to the people who have signed the PII form saying that they are aware of PII and that they will let us know when people leave their library and all of that. So essentially, what didn't seem like a big issue at the time turned into 2 months of us talking to Cersei Dynex and Cersei Dynex talking to the vendor and all kinds of things to find out what actually happened. And we ended up pulling some strings and just talking with the product managers at Cersei Dynex because that was easier than trying to do it any other way. So we are sorry for those of you who had filled out PII forms but were not able to see the PII reports for a while. That's why it took so long to get done, because we were all scrambling trying to understand not only that we were out of licensing, but also that the terms that we were using had changed in the last 6 years. So what we called things were what they were called in 2016, but MicroStrategy, of course, changes the names. And so the new people at Cersei Dynex had no idea that's what they were called, and they were thinking it was someone else or something else. And so it got to be a bigger issue than we thought. Thank goodness it's fixed now, and we can get back to the fun part of Doug splitting out all of those PII reports into PII folders. Again, on the RSA website, and you can open a case with with the help desk if you don't know exactly where, but on the BCA page, there's a PII agreement for a library and then an individual PII agreement if you don't have one and you feel like you need PII data. Doug, did I miss anything?
I think that was pretty good. Let us know if you have questions, and I want to just say again, thank you for your patience while we dealt with this. I know a lot of you were probably really irritated with us, but we really, really were working on it as fast as we could, and I do appreciate it. If you had problems, check your account and it should be fine.
All right. We talked before, it was one of the questions in or one of the discussion topics. And this is a question that had come up after the last meeting or during the last meeting. I can't remember which, but basically the question that I have for you guys, and I'm trying to get a little bit of feedback from you to decide if this is something we might want to do or not. Would it be helpful to you to get a weekly / monthly, whatever the time frame is, report of your items that have been marked as lost or damaged that are paid for, like online, right? Either in the app or in your RSA CAT app, or at any other library. Now, I'm a little more hesitant on the second one. The deal with online payments, right? So when online payments were only in the RSA CAT profile, every library who has an RSA CAT profile who has turned on online payments does get a report that sends them the lost items paid for in RSA CAT. But the RSA CAT mobile app allows anyone in RSA who can log into their patron account to pay for items via the app. So libraries that don't have online payments in their RSA CAT web-based profile, not the app, the web-based profile, they can have things paid for as well. So what we're wondering is, would it help for you guys to know that, you know, item X was paid for via RSA CAT so that you can go ahead and remove it? And I say that because we do send you that information twice a year, but it's only twice a year when we send you the check for it. So some people may want to remove it earlier. Let's see, we got some questions. Once those items are paid for, are they moved to the discard users? No, they are not. They're like any other lost item, right? So if a patron loses an item and walks up to the CERT desk and pays for it, it's the exact same thing, right? It just is a paid lost item. The bill is removed, but the item is still lost until you do something with it.
Kendall, I have a question about that, actually.
Okay.
The scenario that you were describing with a patron paying for this lost item, let's say on the RSA CAT and not the app, but just, you know, online on looking at a computer. Doesn't the patron have to inform a library of the loss / damage? Because otherwise, how do they have the ability to pay for that book?
Okay, so if it is a lost item, either the library has marked it as lost or it has been overdue for the amount of time your library has your lost items going overdue.
Yeah.
So if you're a fine-free library, that could be as short as 10 days or as long as 28 days. If you're a library that charges overdue fines, that might be 30 to 45 days, right? So it hits that overdue time period after the last, you know, after it's overdue. The system sets it to assumed lost and then generates the lost bill and puts it on the patron's account. It also puts the overdue fine on the patron's account as well. So patrons can only pay for bills. They cannot pay for accruing fines. So if you've got an item like a DVD that's $1 a day, let's say, and that $1 a day DVD has been overdue for 4 days and they've still got it out and it has not gone lost yet, the patron can't pay that overdue yet because it's an accruing fine. It's not an actual bill. So patrons can only pay for things once they become a bill. But as soon as it becomes a bill, if you have payments turned on in RSA CAT, which your library does, or if the patron is viewing the bills in the RSA CAT app on their phone, they can pay for those bills at that point. And the library has no idea that it happened unless you look in the patron account or you are one of the libraries who's getting the payment, online payment stuff because you have online payments in your RSA CAT app. So it looks like everybody thinks that a monthly report would be sufficient. Now, my second question is, I would really like to limit this for now to things that are paid for online versus things that are lost or damaged items paid for at another library in person. And the reason why I would like to do that is because if we start reporting for every lost or damaged item paid at another library, I'm afraid we'll start some interlibrary wars, if I'm being perfectly honest, because you're going to get a report that says, you know, this item ID was paid for at library X. And I can see where some people would say, well, I did not receive a check from library X within my idea of a reasonable time frame, and pick up the phone and start yelling, hey, I know this thing was paid, blah, blah, blah. Right? We have dealt with that in the past where people were tracking their materials and the turnaround time at library X was longer than the turnaround time at library Y and vice versa, right? So I would like to, initially anyway, limit the report to only things paid for online, because those are things that truly you would have no way of knowing they were paid for until the online payments are broken out in like January, February, and June, July, or I'm sorry, July, August.
I think you've got a good plan here, Kendall.
All right. We have a plan, and I will pass it on to someone else to accomplish it, because that's how things work. Let's see, where are we at? Woohoo.
Well, this is similar topic. Kendall, I'm actually gonna have you go start this discussion topic because I barely know what all of these things are.
Sure. I couldn't decide if I wanted to put this question before the PII stuff we talked about or after the PII stuff we talked about. Essentially, the question is are we thinking about breaking the advanced reports and legacy reports folders out to people who have non-PII accounts? And yes, we're going to do that. We're going to strip out the PII accounts from those folders and then share those out. So a cataloger who does not need to see PII information, but does need to see some of the more advanced listing reports, we will get that fixed for you in the next month or so. Now, it's kind of funny because when we did the rethink of BCA reports in conjunction with the reports committee, one of the suggestions was, well, there are way too many reports in BCA and we need to hide most of them. And you only need to give those access to those reports to very few people. Unfortunately, the way BCA works, we don't really have the ability to hide reports other than a kind of binary. You can see a PII report or you cannot see a PII report. That's the only way we can kind of hide reports. So we have the basic reports folder, but we don't want to put so many reports in that folder that it becomes just another folder of a million things that you don't know what is what. So there will still be a basic reports folder. We're going to try and limit those to about a dozen reports, right? There'll be a folder for IPLAR reports and other statewide reports with a couple of reports in it. And then there are going to be the advanced reports folder. And we're just going to say, if you are starting to look around in the advanced reports folder, you're going to see a lot of things and they're going to look pretty close together, right? So it's okay if you need to ask us, hey, this is the report I'm looking for. Which one should I run? That's perfectly fine. We're willing to help you out to make sure that you get the right report. But we want to keep, for people who are just logging in and doing very basic stuff, we want to keep it easy for them to find those reports. And then the people who need a more advanced report are, you know, we'll help you out if we can. But, you know, by necessity, the fact that 10 different libraries want the same report 10 slightly different ways means that there are 10 slightly different reports out there. So Yeah, we rethought our BCA folder structure. We implemented the rethink of the BCA folder structure, only to find out that the rethink of the BCA folder structure was insufficient in most people's eyes. And so we need to rethink the rethink that we worked up with the committee. So there you go.
Excellent description. I really think that helps. Does anyone, I mean, like, now's your time to ask questions and on the BCA reports. And obviously Kendall has been talking about quite a few things. Changes are happening. Speak now. I think most people are still just ruminating on it, Kendall.
All right. Well, I have a feeling that those folder structures will be forever in the tweaking mode, where, you know, we'll get the basic folders down pretty simply, but some of those advanced ones and the PII ones will probably, there'll be minor tweaks against them forever and ever. All right. This is my favorite question of the day. Would you rather be 10 minutes early? And that's always, would you rather always be 10 minutes early, or would you rather, I'm sorry, I can't read. Would you rather always be 10 minutes late, or rather always be 20 minutes early? So let me put the poll up. Now, because I am a slightly evil person, I was actually going to run this poll twice. And I was going to run the poll right at the beginning of users group, like right off the bat, and get a count, and then run the report, the poll again now, and see if the answer changed, because those 10-minute late people would not be there to take the poll the first time. But I was nice. I did not do that. Give everybody another 10 seconds or so to vote. I always have a book, so obviously 20 minutes early. That's the same thing as me. I always have a book with me, so it doesn't matter if I'm early. I can always entertain myself. And I'm not overly surprised that this is the answer. But there you go. 90% of you would rather be 20 minutes early. And there you go. Stop share results. Ooh. Okay, I did not launch it again. Very good. Thank you, everyone. All right. So this is the leftover topics area. Erica has been with RSA for 12 years now, which makes me feel really old, because I remember when I hired Erica and it doesn't seem 12 years ago. So there you go. Because there's not enough change going on with us losing the building and all of the other COVID-related things going on, we found out about 3 weeks ago that Morton Bank is going to stop doing their automated check cashing process for us, which initially I was thinking, what does that actually mean? Well, basically what it means is right now when you pay RSA an invoice check, you send it to a lockbox. Morton Bank drives over to the Morton post office, picks up the check from the lockbox, takes it back to the bank, scans it in their check cashing machine, and deposits it in our account. And we don't have to touch it. And they were doing that for us for free. That service ends at the end of June. The new vendor, depending on the number of checks we cashed, would charge us anywhere between $7.50 to $14 per check to do the same service. As you can tell, RSA does not get a whole lot of checks sent to it. And so that's why the price is so high for us. And that does not make any kind of economic sense whatsoever. So we are not going to do that. So RSA is going to be taking over the depositing of checks sent to RSA probably in late June. And it will be a two-person integrity deal where it takes two of us to cash the check. The checks can only be cashed into one account. We will have a scanner that will be attached to one computer, which I thought was just going to go here in the office at East Peoria. Lord knows if we'll have an office in East Peoria when this happens. So there's a little bit of interesting stuff going on there. And then the last thing that we wanted to do was we wanted to send out letters to the people who were getting billed on a kind of monthly basis. Letter/emails were sent to 18 monthly, 2 quarterly, and 1 semi-annual library to say, hey, would you like us to bill you less often? Please, please, please. And so far we've gotten 10 responses, and of the 10 who responded, we have 4 who said, yeah, you can bill us quarterly, 3 semi-annually, and 3 annually. So right away, we've gotten rid of about 180, well, 120-ish checks that we have to worry about going and picking up and manually cashing. So thank you very much for those of you who have responded so far. We're hoping to hear from the others as well. Basically, all we're trying to do is get less checks sent to East Peoria, or less checks, invoices, and less checks sent to the lockbox, so that I don't have to go over to the Morton post office multiple times a week to pick up checks and then hunt down another staff member to get them deposited. Basically, we only want your money once a year. Now we'll take your money whenever you send it to us, but it's more convenient to us if you only send it to us once or twice a year. All right, bonus less discuss question. As we start contemplating the phase 5 world in Illinois, that means that we get to start looking at in-person meetings again, which brings up the question of, do we have in-person meetings? Do we have only online meetings? Or do we have combined kind of hybrid meetings where we have both people in attendance? Pre all of this kicking off in March last year, we had officially flipped as far as online in-person combined meetings, going from always having more people in person than we had online to always having more people online than we had in person. So I think like the February 2020 users group had like 22 people in person and like 40 people online. And that was getting to be the kind of standard at that time. And so as we're trying to rethink how we do meetings, we're trying to get some feedback here on what you guys prefer. I think we're all used to online meetings now, and we can have more of them. The question is hybrid meetings, right? Talking with the other consortia in the state, most of the other consortia are talking about not doing hybrid meetings at all. With their thought process being that whenever you do a hybrid meeting, the people who are in the room get all the attention, and the people who are online are just listening and don't really interact too much. It's very, very hard to interact with people online at a hybrid meeting. So most of the consortia are thinking about saying, we'll do one in-person meeting a year and make it a big deal and try and get a lot of people there. And then probably do the rest of their like user meetings and those types of things basically completely online. Or if they've got training running, they'll say, we're going to do this one in person and these online, and have very few of the hybrid meetings. So I'm just wondering, especially for those of you who have been in RSA hybrid meetings, did you feel as a person who was online in a meeting where there were also people in the room, did you feel like you got as much out of that meeting as the people in the room did? Or did you just kind of feel like, a spider in the corner who was kind of watching? Phase spider, there you go. Yeah, and by the way, the August meeting, that's going to be all online. I don't even want to deal with trying to think about having an in-person meeting when I don't know where the building is going to be and where staff is going to be. So we'll be Zooming in August, definitely. So here's the thought I had. And I don't know if this is something that's going to be workable or not. And I know we talked about an idea like this in the past, but we had talked about, you know, we like having an in-person RSA day. And we had talked about having an in-person directors day or directors and supervisors day, something like that, where we maybe talked about some higher level issues and less kind of line staff type issues. And I'm wondering what your thoughts are on maybe saying, hey, we're going to do one meeting a year, one RSA Users Group meeting a year in person, but instead of it having to be just a meeting, maybe trying to extend that out into a full day so that not only is a users group meeting, but there's also other reasons to come to said meeting so that we can kind of, you know, get a large number of people coming. Interesting responses from everybody. All right. So I'm seeing some people saying hybrid is fine, but we need to do a better job with the online people. I know for smaller libraries, Zoom's probably always the best just due to staffing issues. Maybe once a year would work if we could encourage people to come. All right. Well, thank you. I appreciate your comments. That helps us. We'll think about it some more and come back. And if we have a proposal, we'll let you guys know. And you know, if we thought that we could, you know, combine a couple of things and turn it into a one kind of big mega RSA day, for lack of a better term, we'll talk about that. But I thank you for your feedback. That's one of those things that we can't really know here without talking to you. So. All right. I don't know how many schools we have on. Looking at the list, not very many, but school delivery ends on the 28th of May. Starting the 14th of May, we're going to be blocking school holds. We're going to wipe all the school holds out of the system on the 21st. The 21st is also the default end of semester date for schools. That's basically the system automatically makes things due on the 21st as it gets closer to that day. I know a lot of schools have been requesting lists of books that their people have checked out or list of bills that seniors have. A lot of seniors are already gone. But for schools, this is a really busy time of year. If you are looking at the notes or listening to the video at a later date and you're a school and you need school delivery beyond the 28th of May, you can call Robert Morgan and talk to him and he can work something out with you. And if the dates that we're showing here for holds and end of semester don't work for you, contact us here at RSA and we'll update that for you. This is more a reminder for public libraries that these things are coming because we have hit the listserv a couple of times with messages directly only to school libraries to talk about this, but you'll see those school hold requests pretty much go away on May 21st. All right, this is where we get ambitious and try and do a live demo in a minute. There's an RSA Cat upgrade inbound. This is the web-based version of RSA Cat. It is scheduled, but I don't have a date yet. It's going to be May or early June. I'm hoping for mid to late May. This also fixes the Overdrive magazine issue and makes Overdrive magazines, which used to be RB Digital magazines, I believe. Those got bought out by Overdrive. Those work now. And the thing that all of you will care about is that the facets are fixed. Yay! We have been all over Circe Dynix for years and years and years to get this fixed. They finally have upgraded all of their technology and are using brand new versions of the Solar search tool and all that kind of stuff. And as if by magic, when you do a search in your library, the facets now correctly only show your data, which is great unless you have not been cataloging consistently, and in which case you see your data shown in faceted form with counts next to things that you have cataloged differently. And also later on this year, hopefully over the summer, we're going to update the theme a little bit and give you all a chance to take a look at your headers and kind of clean some of those up with your library logos. So I will start off and show you a live demo and we'll see if it works. So I'm going to go to normal public library and do a search for Dogman. Maybe. This is on our beta site, so don't try and do this on your RSA Cat page because it will not work. So this is normal public library. The way normal has their default search limit set, it is an all item search, which means it is searching both physical and digital items. And you'll notice there are 671 results found for Dogman, physical and digital. There are 269 books, some movies. Here's how many items there are. Notice all the facets again have numbers. They currently do not. All of the facets have numbers now. Normal has done a good job with their item category 1, fiction or nonfiction, and they don't have any spurious data here. So good for them. Notice because the search limit is set to normal, they are the only library that appears in the library facet. And the rest of these are counting exactly normal things. So we're gonna, here's what they've got. Now I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna pull up Atlanta and I'm gonna do the exact same search for Atlanta. And what you'll see is that Atlanta only has 32 results for Dogman. The Atlanta Public Library does not include ebooks in their default search. The Atlanta chose to show only physical items in their default search, and all of their ebooks are here on the center tab of the search results. So if you look, Atlanta's got 32 items. If you look at these facets, there are 22 books, 9 movies, and 1 large print. That makes 32. If you count up all of these facets, the total number of items will be 32. Now, in some things, it may seem weird. 23 fiction, 7 nonfiction, 1 equipment, and 1 not defined. Again, local cataloging practices will become more apparent when we look at these. But this works now the way a patron would expect this to work. This is how I always thought facets should work, and this is how patrons think facets should work, right? If I have 32 items, I should only see 32 in the counts when I'm looking at the facets. Now, if I switch over to the ebooks and audiobooks, we'll notice that the counts of things change because the search library has changed. So now there's 204 things, and we'll notice that the counts have now changed to 204 items in all the facets, which are now correctly showing the faceting information for the ebooks. And if I go to all RSA libraries and show RSA wide the 2317 Dogman results, If you add these facets up, you're going to get 2,317 things. And you'll notice now the library facet is showing all of the libraries who hold that particular item in RSA. You can go to view all and see how many each library holds. So we go all the way down here to Kiwani High School, only has one item that is returned in the Dogman search. So this is how patrons have probably always thought these things should work. Now, what's really nice, especially for you librarians who want to kind of take a look at your collection, if you do a blank search here in the search bar, that will return everything in your library. So in the Atlanta Public Library, that's 10,409 titles. The way the facets currently work in RSA CAT, it only returns about the first 3,000 to 4,000 items that it finds in facets, and that's it. But Atlanta has 10,000 items. And if you count all these things up, you'll find that it's 10,409 because the facets are looking at every item in the system now, pulling back all that data and showing it to the public. So if you say, well, I want to just see all of the movies that are owned by Atlanta, all you have to do now is click on movie for the format. And then you can start limiting down even more, right? But now I'm only seeing the 996 movies that Atlanta has and how they were cataloged. And let's say I only want to see nonfiction movies in Atlanta. So I can click on that. Now I've limited to movie nonfiction, and I've got 100 items. And let's say I happen to know that that movie was released in 2013. And I can click on that and see the 9 movies in Atlanta that are nonfiction, cataloged as nonfiction, and in format movie. These work the way they're supposed to work now. So as soon as the upgrade is done, everyone's facets will go to that. And that works not only for Atlanta, but that works for all libraries. So if you go in here and you do a blank search in the normal public library, which has a much larger collection, if you add up the counts in all of these formats, and you might probably would have to do a view all to do so, those counts added together would be that. All of the data is now included. So it's wonderful. It's a good way to just do a blank search in your library. And if you want to know how your item category 1 cataloging is going, you can go right down here to fiction, nonfiction and go, ooh, we've got some cleanup work to do. And then you could click on, say, equipment and just see the ones that are marked as equipment and go, should that be equipment? No, that probably shouldn't be equipment. We've made a mistake here when we catalog this item. We'll go in and fix it. So that's all good news. Everybody should be very, very happy about that. And even if you aren't, I am, because that's been something that I've been asking Circe Dynex to do for a long time, and they have not had the technology to do it. And as I mentioned, the one other thing that we're going to be doing this summer is reworking the theming system and freeing up some more space for you guys to put your logos unencumbered by the swoosh on your website. So over here, we've got the RSA CAT Libraries Delivered logo with swoosh added to it. That swoosh came out of the fact that when we went to this system, we were not sure that patrons would be able to figure out that this was something they might need to check on and that there was a menu here. And so the swoosh was very subtly coming out of here and then kind of extending over to this menu here to make them a little more visible. It's been like that since 2014. So we're going with more of a logo, a slightly updated logo of what we're using in the RSA mobile CAT app, and then leaving this entire piece here for you to drop your library logo. And this library happens to be the App Store for Apple logo, because that was the one that I easiestly could link to at the time. But Whatever your logo will be here against a nice plain white background, which will make it stand out more. We can put your library name here in a different font if you want, or the font that you use on your website. We can copy that and put it here. So it'll clean up the websites a little bit, but we still do have the swoosh, which patrons recognize as, hey, all these catalogs, all these libraries belong to the same overall group, and we can borrow items from them. So that's coming. We will, before we roll this out, we will be putting emails out and saying, hey, those of you who have logos on your RSA Cat page, do you want us to just copy those over without the swoosh behind and move forward? Or do you need a new logo? Has your logo changed? So there'll be some upfront work for Tony to do to get all of this ready before we roll it out. But we will be rolling this out later on this year. So that'll all be nice. Some other things that we have already done. The Contact Your Library form has been removed from the RSA Cat page. You can see in the background, I've clicked in the Contact Your Library room on Beardstown Houston's webpage. Instead of a form being here, it now just tells the patron to click on the library information link up in the menu header. And then here is what shows when you click on that library information link. This information is as up to date as you've told us it was up to date earlier this year, or maybe it was last year. Time is irrelevant at this point. We asked everybody to verify that this information was correct. So hopefully it's correct. And if it is not correct, we have an update form out on our website. Right. Library contact information update form. If your email's changed, if your phone number's changed, if your library hours have changed, if your address has changed, you can click on this form. It will open up. You tell us what library you're from and tell us what changed on this nice little form. And we will not only update it here in the library information part of the RSA Cat, we will also update it in the RSA Cat mobile app so that your patrons looking in there will have the correct updated data. We will update it so that it goes into the Blue Cloud visibility data. So that kind of open warehouse of data about your library and your materials will have the correct address, email, phone number, and all of that out there as well. So we're trying to hit as many places as we can and keep this information as up to date as possible. And while also keeping you from getting spammed by people who say that one of your book covers has stolen an image that someone else owns the copyright to, and you need to pay them or they will sue you. That was all spam. So that form is gone now because spammers were using it to try and extort money out of people. So there you go.
I have a question for you, Kendall.
Mhm.
This updated information, would you like us to include any updated information regarding, for example, curbside service? Some folks have curbside service a little few hours before, a little few hours after the regular library hours. How would you like us to handle that?
So if you do have curbside service, and now here's the thing. Yes, we'll put that out here on this form, but this is the only place we can put it. It won't fit in any of the other places that we put it. But this is just basically an open blank page and we can put whatever we want. So if you've got curbside hours and you want us to put it out here on your RSA Cat page, just use that form on our website and Tony will add that in and he'll let you know that it has been done when it's done. The important part here to remember is that if your curbside hours change or your library hours change, or your contact points, of course, you need to send us the updates. Otherwise, it's just going to show the wrong information out on your RSA Cat page.
Thank you.
All right. And that Contact Your Library page, that has been around since well, that came out in 2014, in April of 2014, when we rolled out the new RSA CAT, because the old RSA CAT had a way to do that. And so we added that into the new RSA CAT, the then new RSA CAT. Just a reminder that the RSA CAT interactive search terms portal now has actually useful data, since we have now 4 months of data in there. Well, really 4.5 months at this point, since it's the middle of May. Again, here's the link for it. It's also linked on the RSA webpage on the monthly statistics reports page, of which we have one, although people forget we do have one. I will show you that first. The monthly statistics report page is right here. We have many years worth of circulation reports and ADML reports and RSA CAT reports and cleanup reports and all kinds of things. If you go in this RSA CAT stats reports page, item number 4 is the related patron search terms and related data link right there, which takes you to this thing that I showed you all at the last meeting, but there was not much good data in here. Let's go back. Again, this is basically the data, good data starts January 1st. So don't look at December data, it's not good data. So because I have not chosen a library, this is looking at all of the search terms entered RSA wide in everybody's page. You could also click here on this drop down to pick your library from the list. The list is not alphabetized because that would make life way too simple. As you can see, there have been 247 dogman searches overall in RSA CAT since the 1st of January. I probably accounted for 100 of those at least, but I'm sure I did not type in all 274, but that is my go-to search because the dogman titles are generally very well supported in all of the third-party data enhancement products. And so you can see the full range of options available when you're looking at those. So that's what I use as my default search. But like you can go down this list and just see what's popular in all of RSA. You can come over here. You can see also whose RSA CAT sites have been getting hit the most times. Let's see. So we'll look at only Morton. And now that'll limit data to just Morton. And it has to think because there's getting more and more data out there. All right. So here are the search limits that Morton uses. Clearly Morton's no ebooks search is their default limit since it's been used way more than everything else. Adventures in Odyssey with 30 unique search hits is the #1 search term there in Morton. You can go down this list and see what's been searched for. The list is very long tail. There's a lot of 1 and 2 search terms in there. The other thing that's really interesting about this, there's 2 different tabs. So this traffic sources and device info tab. Again, I'm going to limit this to just Morton. If you wonder at your RSA CAT page who is linking to your RSA CAT page and where that traffic is coming from, once you have limited to your library, this is pretty helpful, right? So mortonlibrary.org is 85% of the link traffic into RSA CAT. That's not surprising. A lot of patrons go to the Morton website and then use that to get into the catalog. This direct none link here, that means somebody has this page bookmarked. And so they're just pulling a bookmark up and going right to it. Library thing, that is actually referral traffic from the Syndetics Unbound widget. that is appears in not only the search results screens, but also on the item details screens. What is this? Washington DL, oh, Washington Library has linked over to them. Synthetics is linked to you. Some interesting, it's always interesting to see where some of these came from. WorldCat.org is in there. Pekin Library, Tremont Library. So interesting sometimes. I've looked at a couple individual libraries and you can kind of tell who has really good community partnerships because there'll be a ton of links in from a community partner. So anyway, this data has good, or this report has good data in it now. It's far more useful now that we have 4 months worth of data, and the longer we go, the better that data is going to be for you want to see what was popular for the year or all time or just in the last month or over summer reading. You could limit your date set to just summer reading and see what was popular during summer reading. So interesting data there. I just wanted to remind everybody of because it is much newer. Mad Mimi is our email news server. But well, there you go. That's coming from your email newsletter. Thank you. All right, now Tony's going to either blow your mind or make you very happy, one of the two.
Sure. So, so my part of the presentation here is called Starting from Scratch, and it's about the new website I'm working on, and RSA is going to be moving towards once we have more of a structure to it. So, as you know, I've been here since January. I'm gonna just tell you a little bit about how that project's going. This is a totally simplified slide explaining how to launch a website. We are really close to choosing a platform. We're meeting with a potential vendor this week, and we've already done some user testing on the sitemap. If you were at RSA Day, you may have helped out with it. And I've taken those results and I put them into kind of a refreshed diagram for everybody to look at today. It's not really quite at the design phase yet, but once we finish with this testing, we'll have some more things to look at and more tests to do, and then we'll build it and go live. Yeah, again, that's like a super simplified version of how to make a website. So user testing. So I'm today basically going to be asking for a little more help arranging the new support site. There's no pressure to get it perfectly right now, but anyone is invited to participate in this. I have 2 sketches today instead of 3, and they're basically just going to be a diagram of the top menu. And there's just 3 really easy questions for each of the sketches. This is all a work in progress. So if something really rubs you the wrong way, just let me know. You can open a support ticket and to the RSA help desk and just send it to my attention, and we will make sure to adjust as needed. And if you want to discuss afterwards, this can be another bonus discussion if you'd like. So here we go. The guidelines for everybody is I'm actually going to put on the screen a little bit of diagram this time because last time I didn't have this, but I'm going to ask you to annotate the screen. And so you have to go onto your Zoom settings and look for this annotate, which, what does it look like? It looks like a little pencil. Annotate and then look for the stamp. And we're only going to be choosing stars, check marks, or an X, and they all kind of have like a star will be like a general question. The check marks will be a circulation question, possibly, and a catalog question will be an X. Try to not use the other drawings so that I can get kind of a good sense of what you guys are thinking. And then obviously this is recorded, but I feel obligated to tell you because I'll probably be looking at the results later. And there are no wrong answers. It's about whether the drawings are a good match to what, to how you think about RSA. Like right now, we know we need to get the website organized better. So this is our chance to give it a shot.
And to get to that annotate menu, you go to the top of your screen where it says you are viewing Tony Hahn's screen. Right next to there, it says view options and there's a little drop down. Click on that drop down. Go to the next to the bottom option and it will say annotate. And then click on that annotate. And that should open the toolbar that you see on Tony's screen at the very top or close to the top of your screen. And then you want to click on the button that says stamp. And once you click on the button that says stamp, it'll show you 6 different stamp options, the star, the checkbox, and the X being some of those.
And if you want to test it right now, go ahead and annotate. I put the little target up there so you could try it out. I do ask that if you can, try not to cover up any of the words so that other people can still read it. And then the other wrinkle at this time that might make it more difficult is I'm just showing you the top navigation bar. So as you know from a lot of websites, those navigation bars usually have like one word or a couple words. And when you click them or you hover over them, they give you a little bit more information. And that's kind of how these are designed. So when everybody's ready, I know it's getting late. I'll clear the annotations and we can get going with the first model that's coming up. Oh, and so since it's going to be, it'll just be a menu bar. Once I start seeing a few like stars or whatnot appear, I will open it up. I will open up that menu so you can see what's inside it. So here we go. Let's see, clear annotations. Please, yeah. Oh yeah, you don't have to clear your own. I can clear everything. And I can switch the slide over. All right. Oh, and the questions, of course. I have 3 questions for you guys. It's not going to let me copy paste them. So
You can just read them out.
yeah, okay, I'll just read them out. Place a star where you'd go for information about membership levels or member libraries. So membership levels or member libraries.
We're doing
Okay,
a
and if
fine
that's-
job of not covering the words.
That's okay. I'll actually open up that one because you guys chose that and I can show you what's inside of it. I think that seems good to me. Okay, so and you don't have to go with what other people are choosing. And maybe this is me that arranged it this way. I'll show you what's in a couple. Everybody chose that one, so that's good. The next question is a check mark where you go for downloading a report or your monthly statistic numbers. So everybody go to reference. You got a couple people that would go to data. Okay. So this is where, and a couple people in circulation. Okay, so system reference, I actually don't have reports in there, but this is showing some flaws in my plan. I'm going to open up this top right corner. Then I have some reports up in data, but maybe you guys missed data and that's okay too. And I will open up circulation as well, just so that we can see what's in there. Okay. And then the last question I have is place an X where you'd go to make a standard cataloging request. Something very common for, I'll show you what's in cataloging too. Yep.
You should not feel bad about not selecting data because I didn't select data either, because I have not seen this before either. So there you go.
Mhm.
I was wrong.
Yeah, and I think cataloging makes sense to, if you're going to be doing a cataloging request, maybe it would just live in the tools area or something. So, and I don't think there's anything saying it can't live in multiple places. So those are the 3 questions, and hopefully it generated some food for thought. I'm at the end of this slides, I'm going to basically link you guys back to this diagram so you can interact with it yourselves later and give me more feedback if you want to. Oops, let's see. But I'm going to see if we are ready for the next one. Just jump right into it. First question I have for you is, where would you go, put a star where you'd go for looking up the RSA NFP's bylaws or information about the board? Okay, we have competing camps. Let's see. I think I see a few more on this one over about, and board info is right over there, and governance as well. But for the sake of those who chose system info, I'll show you what's in that tab. At least what I thought would be good in that tab. System parameters, things like that. Okay, and the next question is place a check mark where you would look up an answer to your question about holds or details of reciprocal borrowing. Circulation. Cool. Squeaky chair there. Great. Okay, so we're all pretty much in agreement there. And then where would you place an X where you would check for information about the database committee? So this is like, it's kind of a trick question because it's about the committee. Is like, do you go to where you'd go for information about the database, or where do you go to where you'd go for information about the various committees that RSA has? I see some cataloging, so I'll open cataloging up. And then I see a bit in system info and a bit in about. I think about was what I was thinking for committees. Oh, maybe not. Or maybe I just forgot to put committees in here.
Are they under member libraries?
Actually, yes, they are. And I don't think it's a very obvious thing, but they are. They're they are. And since a couple people put for help and support, or actually a lot of people put for system info, there was that's kind of like a reference for like those kind of things. Portfolio reports, help and data. So perhaps this third question makes us rethink things, or maybe the first model was significantly better. But yeah, I think I found the first one really helpful. There was a clear difference between the results in these diagrams. So that really concludes my part. I will thank everybody for participating. And if you want to see these mockups later, there's a bit.ly link that'll be included in the slides. So thanks for playing. I don't have any prizes, but the prize will be a nice new website at the end. And I will stop my share.
All right. Now I have to figure out where my Zoom screen went so I can share back again. All right, I promise you we are getting towards the end. So first we have to do a poll. I would like to know, hold on. I have to find the right poll first. I would like to know what your favorite kind of Hershey's miniature is. Is it the milk chocolate kind, which is the correct answer? Not to, mess with things, but that is the correct answer. The special dark, the crackle, or the Mr. Good bar. Oh, getting many answers. Most of you have voted already. Very strong opinions on the Hershey's bag of mixed things. And even though I tried, I was unsuccessful in getting you all to understand that milk chocolate is in fact the correct answer. All right.
Liz, you should know that there is a special collection of just dark Hershey's miniatures. They've got twice the amount of special dark, and they have Mr. Good Bar and Crackle made with special dark instead of milk chocolate. It's awesome. And if anyone else has any Hershey based questions, just send them to me and I'll answer you.
All right, super quick strategic plan upgrade because we are way at the end of the day here. All the easy stuff is done. That's really all you need to know. Basically everything we can do without getting together as either a group of people with you or a group of staff to sit down in a room and do some brainstorming and revising and reworking kind of as a collaborative group. All of that is done. The stuff that we have left to do is stuff that we need to be collaborative, we need to be together, and we need to put a lot of brain work behind. The amount of things that are in our strategic plan that we are working towards is going to be getting much smaller as we've hit all these really, really hard things. So member engagement, meeting styles, reworking the website, how do we communicate with you, leadership opportunities, new reports and cataloging report quests. Those are things we can still do, some of them. We do have the membership services steering committee getting together. We've kind of hit a little bit of a wall in that meeting, and we are reworking to try and come to more common understandings of the RSA wide task breakouts. We didn't have the breakouts granular enough at the beginning, and so we made them more granular, but we went too far and they were too granular. So now we've got to back it up. And there's also the issue of needing to do a lot of training to the people, not training, informing is the correct word, informing the people who are serving on that member services levels committee about all of the things that RSA does, because there is no one library in RSA that knows everything RSA does. So when we show this 200 line long list of all of the services that we provide, people are like, what is this? I didn't know you did this. How long does that take? How much of a staff issue is that? So we've hit a little bit of a wall in that, and we're trying to rework our list of tasks with that. We're also working on a membership system usage chart that'll take as many easy to gather statistics and kind of weigh out where your library falls among the lists of libraries in RSA, because it's kind of hard. Oh, I serve a population of X number of people and my budget is Y big, but how does that really fit in with system usage and where I stand amongst all the other RSA libraries? So we're trying to put that together. Again, that's another thing that's very hard to do by ourselves, and we will be asking you for some data later on for that. We're continuing to add online and recorded video trainings. We're phasing our Zoom visits back up. Staff were starting to come back to the office a little more regularly. We'll do that while we can, while we have an office to come back to anyway. At some point, we'll have a new office to go to. We are still upgrading things in the system. So we've got the RSA CAT upgrade coming and the Symphony upgrade coming. And we're still working towards that RSA staff independence of 2024 to 2026 timeframe. And finally, we're going to restart work on the new firewall. We were going to do that last year in May. May turned out to be a bad time last year, so we didn't do it. Not only that, but we could not actually get into the hosting facility where we have to put the new firewall. We're going to try and get that new firewall installed in the June-July timeframe. We are going to wipe out every library IP address in that firewall. And we are going to ask each and every one of you out there to send us your current IP address so that we don't have any security holes with old IP addresses. That will cause a little bit of a disruption when we do it. We will ask everybody for your current IP addresses before we make the firewall switch, and those people who answer should be good to go when we make the firewall switch. The people who don't answer when we make the firewall switch will call us pretty closely after that, because they won't be able to get into the system. There's some timing issues and some just COVID related issues with that. That needs to be in the government Springfield hosting center, and we have to be escorted and watched at all times while we're in there. So not only do we have to have a person from Rails come with to help with some of the software swap over and to make sure that it's interfacing with the Rails equipment that's sharing the same internet line, but we also have to get somebody from that hosting facility scheduled who can sit and watch us, from a socially distanced kind of perspective. So there's a lot of scheduling around a lot of things for this to happen, but that's our plan, is to get that done, get it at least installed in June, July, and maybe not go live until August. We'll have to see how that goes, but Again, that's another one of these hard things that we had to put off. We just couldn't do it. And so we're going to try and get back to at least that one, because that's something we can do without having to have a whole group of us together. All right, it's been a very long meeting, and I'm going to cede the remainder of the afternoon back to the chair.
Well, thank you so much, Kendall. I am not going to take up a lot of time. I want to reiterate some of the comments that have been coming in on chat, and especially the latest one from Jenny. Thank you so much, RSA, for not only communicating everything that you do, but for all the hard work that you do. Thank you for saying that, Jenny, and I'm going to echo that, as I'm sure many of us are thinking that too. Thank you for all of the hard work that you do. To everyone who's left, I want to just reiterate some things that Kendall said earlier. If anyone has any suggestions for topics, I mean, throughout this whole meeting, we had little breakouts where we said, okay, we're going to discuss this topic now. And if you have those questions, if you have a frustration of something that you're working on, well, and you want, member input, please share that with Kendall. He showed you where the link was on the RSA website, where you can submit these suggestions of topics. You can submit them anonymously. You can also just plain email me, and I will make sure that they're on the agenda. And I can also do that anonymously if you so desire. So whether you've got discussion topics, just plain question, you wonder what everyone else is thinking or doing about some topic. And also, if anyone has any ideas for fun little interstitial polls, yep, send them our way too. Either Kendall or me, and you can email either one of us, fill out the form that Kendall showed you. And there you go. Let's see, double checking some things on the chat. Okay, Larissa brings up a topic, yes, that was brought up at the last Rails member update meeting, and it was just a topic. It was not any kind of decision or declaration. And so, Larissa, thank you for that question about standard location of placing barcodes. That is something that I will initially have, I will initially send to the RSA staff. I guess Anna and her staff could look at that, see what RSA currently has written down. And should we address that at the next meeting, Kendall, do you think?
So there's, this is one of the possible suggestions for improving delivery. And the idea behind it is that either you have an automated sorter, and the automated sorter, you would have to basically put the item label on the back cover, the outside back cover of the book. So that, and then the delivery sorter people would place the books on the automated sorter table so that the barcodes could be scanned. Or for more manual sorting, it would save the sorters the time of having to open up the book, look in the front, look in the back, try and figure out where the barcode is. But they could just scan the barcode. There would be a connection back to the system, and the system would tell them this book is going to this library, and then they'd throw it in that bin. And so basically it's a way to kind of remove the need for delivery labels and or lessen the need for delivery labels and make delivery a little more, they would hope, faster and more accurate that way. The thing is, there's not much to discuss now because that is part of the delivery RFP, and that delivery RFP and the whole process around the delivery RFP and possible outsourcing and possible automating of delivery, that RFP is just getting listed either today or early tomorrow, sometime tomorrow on the Rails website. So that's a year down the line, 6 months down the line before any decision is made on where to put it. And so I would say for now, let's just hold off, because if we decide, hey, we're going to start putting barcodes on the outside back cover, and then the delivery task force comes back and says, we would like it if you would place the delivery or the barcodes on the book's spine or the front cover, then we're all wrong. And we've got to rebarcode all the things that we changed in the first place. So, and Rails does understand that that is an expensive proposition, because everybody's got to get duplicate barcodes and then hunt down a duplicate barcode for book in hand, or rebarcode every book they have in their library. That's not something anyone's wanting to do necessarily. It's just a suggested idea for a way that they could do delivery a little more automated and hopefully a little bit more accurately.
Thank you, Kendall, for that explanation. And thank you, Larissa, for bringing that up. Definitely, keep bringing things up if they come up in a Rails meeting or anything else. Just as a reminder, as Kendall said earlier, our next users group meeting, which I hope everyone will put on their calendars now, please put it on a calendar now, 1 p.m. on the 5th of August. That will definitely be Zoom, and we'll talk again in August what we think is best for November. But as Kendall said, the RSA staff is either going to be just settling into their new home, or possibly still looking for a new home. Worst case scenario, they'll still be looking for a new home. So that's just a lot of stuff that they're working on. So it's a bit easier to just do this through Zoom. So I know people are leaving. It's fine. Go enjoy some Hershey's miniatures. So unless anyone really, really objects, I'm going to officially adjourn this meeting. I have 4:26. I think this might not be as long as last meeting.
It's close, and when I started putting the agenda together, I was like, this meeting's going to be an hour long because I got nothing to say.
Kendall, I don't know why you think that.
Yeah, famous last words there.
Yeah,
Oh my
sometimes.
gosh.
Well, you know what? Without a couple of major incidents happening over the last 3 weeks, probably would have been a good hour shorter.
Well,
And a little more focused, because Lord knows I have not been focusing on work things lately.
Okay, everyone, if you really want to stick around and just chat, we'll be on here for another 30 seconds, but you're really welcome to go on for the rest of your day. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.